Welcome, Asana Santa, Ashina Lang. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for joining us for this conversation. I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat and encourage you, if you haven't already, go to nativelands.ca. There you can learn about all the Indigenous peoples' territories across Canada. And it would be lovely if you would post the territory from which you're speaking and listening into the chat so we can get a sense of where people are. And just a reminder that this is being recorded, and it's a automated process. And so we don't always get it quite right with the automated process. So thanks for your patience with that. And as people are joining, just an opportunity for me to say thank you, Asana Santa, Ashina Lang. Thank you so much for joining us, and encourage each of you as you come on to the conversation to introduce yourself in the chat. And also encourage you to go to nativelands.ca, where you can learn about the Indigenous peoples' territories across this amazing country of Canada, and where you can learn about the territory from which you're listening. And a reminder that the closed caption is set up, it's automated, so sometimes it gets a little skewed, and thanks for your patience with that. And I just want to mention, as we're talking about territories across Canada, that like Canada, and probably more so, Tanzania is a country of many, many different Indigenous peoples. And today we have the opportunity to delve into the realities of the Maasai people. And as you take time to explore Tanzania, you'll find out that they're one of many Indigenous peoples in the country. And just one more time round, so as people join us, thank you so much for joining us, Asana Santa. We're pleased to have you with us. Please introduce yourself in the chat, and encourage you to explore nativelands.ca and post the territory from which you're listening. And a reminder, we're closed captioned, and so do be prepared if sometimes it goes askew, because it's an automated process. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Colleen Hanley. I'm going to be the host of this event, Inside and Out, guarding the rights of Indigenous peoples. And I'd like to pass over the mic to Anne-Cat Bajard, who is our Executive Director at the British Columbia Council for International Cooperation. Anne-Cat.
Asante, Colleen, thank you so much. I don't know if everybody notices, I don't always smile, but I'm just like beaming right now because of the topic of the day. So it's really hard for me to just introduce us formally, but I will. My name is Anne-Catherine Bajard, and the BC Council for International Cooperation, who is organizing this. Thank you, Brianne, who's in the background right now. We're a coalition of international cooperation organizations. Cooperation being the term that we really want to think about. It's not about development of ourselves or of others. It's cooperation in whatever aims we have. So we have 28 organizational members. We have over 100 individual members. And every year there's maybe 3,000 participants. We also have 6 branches, one of which is the climate change branch. Great to see that, Clamian, you have other people behind you. Feel free to come and wave to us, those of you who are here. Yeah, so I've given the numbers, but really the impact that we want to have isn't about our size in Canada. It's about connecting knowledge that is everywhere. The reason I'm so enthused is, personally, I lived for over 20 years in Bolivia with 34 Indigenous nations. It's a country that has shown that Indigenous peoples don't need aid. They have the space to be heard, and they push into governance with the space to be heard. So Bolivia is one example where the actual constitution became very, very imbued and created by Indigenous peoples. So there is hope out there. And I always think Canada, we need to learn from what's out there on Indigenous rights, not as kind of an exotic thing, but as a model that we really need to learn from, or several models. There isn't one Indigenous population, there are hundreds, thousands. In Liberia, where I work, there were 14 Indigenous populations. And we actually had one of my colleagues came from Kenya, and she was Maasai. So it was interesting also, a Maasai person working with the Kele, the Bravo, all these different nations. Now, that said, I do live and reside right now on the territory of the Musqueam people, which is just an incredibly beautiful territory. For those of you who are not in Canada, it has become a custom over the last 15 years to acknowledge where we live, but we're really trying to make it more real and not just words. So learning also about Indigenous peoples in Canada and internationally is a commitment that we have beyond just acknowledging where we live, but at least connecting with the land here. Might see behind there's mountains, forest, and trees, and sea. That is important to us. I should really go straight into the topic of the day, which I'm obviously excited about, the defense of Indigenous land rights in Tanzania. I don't know what you're going to talk about specifically, but I know it's not always about defense. Sometimes it's about planning. So defense sometimes seems as if you're defending yourself from an aggressor, but it goes beyond defense, I'm sure, many times with new ideas that are not a reaction to the oppressors. So a big welcome to everyone here. The challenges faced by tribal communities in Northern Tanzania are what are going to be the focus of the day, from education, gender injustice, food insecurity, and the climate crisis. For BCCIC, our team and our members this year, our real focus is the intersection of climate crisis, people, amongst which women, Indigenous peoples, anyone who is in a situation where they are faced with more obstacles are the most important in an intersection with climate change, women's rights, peace and security, and food sovereignty. There is a difference between food sovereignty and food security, but I won't say it right now. It's over to the speakers who get to introduce themselves. I'm trying to figure out who speaks next. If it's Colleen, let me just check. Colleen, thank you so much.
And one needs to unmute oneself so we can carry on. Thanks very much, Anka, and I really appreciate the tone that you've set for the conversation today. I also want to acknowledge, because we're not in the same geographic area that I live, work, play, and do a whole lot of volunteering, from the land of the Comox people located on what is now called Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada. I have talked many times with elders who live in our area, and every conversation reminds me of the connection that the Comox people have had and continue to have, and I know will have, with the land that we all live on, and how important that land is, and how we need to steward it and look after it. And I express my appreciation to the Indigenous peoples who have been doing that for millennia and are now sharing that responsibility for those of us who are living as guests on the territory. I am, like Ankat, thrilled at this opportunity to have a conversation and do a whole lot of listening with Namayani and Clamian. And I do want to let you know that I expect during the conversation that they will often refer to PWC and NMI, because those are the abbreviations for their organizations. PWC standing for the Pastoral Women's Council, NMI standing for Nashipay Maasai Initiatives. And I also want to invite all of you who are on this listening journey with me, as questions pop up for you, while Namayani and Clamian are talking with me and with each other, please send your questions in, and if we can kind of move them right into the conversation, we will. My goal is to create a sense of we're all sitting around a table. We'd have to be really, really tiny, so many of us could fit around the table, but so that we can have a conversation with each other rather than a presentation. And with all that, I also want to acknowledge that Namayani and Clamian are speaking to us from what Clamian has taught me to call Maasai land, Northern Tanzania and Southern Kenya. And even though it's 10 o'clock in the morning here in Canada, it's 9 o'clock in the evening for all our friends from Tanzania and Kenya. So a special Ashina Lang to each of you for staying up past probably what is bedtime, knowing that many of you are up very early in the morning to do your work. So a special thank you for that. I am honored to introduce Namayani Rapey Edward, who is the climate change leader for the Pastoral Women's Council, an organization that for more than 20 years has been serving pastoral women in Northern Tanzania. And I also want to introduce you to Clamian Kitesho, who is the executive director of the Nashipay Maasai Initiatives. And he's also sits as an elder on the Namayani Maasai Council of Elders. And so I'm going to finally get to the first question so we can get this conversation going. And here in Canada, we don't hear a lot about Maasai people. They don't hit the news cycle. So, and we certainly hear very little beyond the reference to East Africa about the challenges in Maasai land, about what's happening in Maasai land, both in terms of the successes and the moving forward and the challenges that you're living with. And so I'd like to start out with an opportunity to ask each of you to tell us a little bit about yourself as a Maasai person, about the work that you do, about the organization that I know that you are both fundamentally part of, and about some of the realities in Maasai land. And Namayani, may I start with you? And thank you for unmuting. Yeah, Namayani is joining us on her phone. The realities of technology in other parts of the world. Actually, we have two Namayanis, and that's because a friend of Namayani's is also using the same feed. And so Namayani, you're still muted. Yeah, you're still muted, Namayani. You just need to click the mute button in the lower left-hand side. There you go.
Yes,
awesome.
I did it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is Namayani Rapey Edward, as you have seen, from the Northern Tanzania. I'm a pastoralist, Indigenous woman, working with PWC, that is Pastoral Women Council. It's a non-governmental organization that is working, and it is a member-based organization whereby we work with women, and we have almost 13,000 members who are women registered. And we have been working as PWC for the last almost 27 years. And we've been working with this community, the Indigenous women. And we work under almost 6 thematic areas. One is women empowerment economically, to support them. But another one is working with them in terms of leadership, that is trying to advocate for women to have the right to speak, to have the courage to speak on their own issues. But also we are trying to work on issues of climate change. As myself, I'm a person of climate change. This is a cross-cutting issue that is currently trending everywhere in the world. Everybody is experiencing the heat and the impact of climate change, so we are working on that also. But with PWC, we also work on issues of water. We have also issues of health. It's a wide explanation to try to explain what we do in each and everything. But just in short terms, I can explain that in all those that I've mentioned, we are trying to work with this pastoral community in the Northern Tanzania. And we started with one district, that is Ngorongoro, back then. But later.
Namayani, you just hit the mute button. You just need to unmute. Thank you. Ashe.
We are now working with 3 districts. That is Ngorongoro, Loliondo, and Munduli. In all these districts, we are working with women specifically. That is our target as an organization. But with some other intervention, we are trying to involve men in one way or another. As you know that without involving sometimes it becomes difficult to work with them. They have the right, they have the decision. They want to allow their women to participate in one way or another. I can just speak a little bit on this community, the Maasai community in Northern Tanzania. As for the time that I've been working with them, it's almost now 8 to 10 years. It's a community that is, let me say, they're a little bit behind. They're indigenous people with no education, most of them, for those who just got the chance to be educated like some of us, but most of them are illiterate. And with that challenge, they are becoming too marginalized and they are becoming too affected by most of the challenges, mostly those one associated with climate change. For instance, if we talk of drought, that is one of the challenges that is much hindering this community. The pastoralists are dependent on livestock only for their food, for their survival. That is their livelihood. And hence, when you get a very long drought, they lose their animals, then they fail to get what they can sustain for their life. That means they will have nothing to depend on because their cattle is the only thing that they depend on. And once they lose them, that means their livelihood is at risk. So I can just say, as PwC, we have been trying to do some of the intervention to support this community. And as we go on with that short description, we'll discuss more and see, I'll share the challenges that this community is undergoing since then up to date and the foreseen challenges that are based on issues of climate change and other. We have the issues of education, we have the issues of health, and so many others. So I will get to share with them as we go on with this. That is just a brief introduction of these people and how we work with them as PwC. And we are looking forward to continue to struggle, bring up in some of the innovative interventions that will help this community to undergo and go through these big challenges that they're facing. So far, thank you for that introduction. Yeah.
Thanks, Namayani. Clamian, will you tell us a little bit about yourself as a Maasai person and your work with NMI?
I am so humbled to join this webinar. My name is Clamian Kitesho, a Maasai from Northern Tanzania, born and raised in Ngorongoro. My parents moved about 9 times when I was growing up. And that actually made me really know and understand different parts of the Maasai land. As I grew up and working and participating almost every struggle and happiness and dancing and everything as a Maasai. So I am so humbled to get friends who are happy to take their times, set your time to listen us discussing about our struggles. I also thank particularly my colleague Namayani for being here with us. PwC is a friend of ours, a friend organization, and our working partner in many different projects. So thank you. I haven't met you in person, but I'm so happy and I appreciate all what you are trying to share with us. Thank you, Namayani. Again, the Maasai tribe is one of the indigenous, indigenous tribes we have in Tanzania. Tanzania has so many tribes, over 120 different tribes, different languages. Out of 120 well-known different tribes and different languages, we have 4 indigenous groups in Tanzania. And these are Aki, Barbaik, Hadzabe, and the Maasai. So 4 of these groups out of 120 different tribes in Tanzania, 4 are actually recognized as indigenous tribes in Tanzania. Together with that, that is recognized, but there's a very little which is being done by, by the government, which recognizes about that, but also which has signed many treaties about protecting of the indigenous land and indigenous rights. Again, I just want to say that NMI, Nashipay Maasai Initiatives, has been working with in Maasai land. As Namayani just mentioned, we have about 5 different districts in Maasai land in Northern Tanzania, namely Ngorongoro, Longido, Simanjiro, Kiteto, and Monduli, where we live and operate. I worked as a safari guide for some times, and I lived in Arusha for a little while. But eventually I decided to join my community because of the pain that the community was going through, particularly with things that Namayani was touching here about the challenges and struggles that we're going through. So I decided to move back to the Boma where we work now, where we operate, where I can't say really helping them, but helping ourselves, because we found that we have an obligation. We have an obligation to join our friends and tribesmen to fight an elephant we have in front of us. So we have a big elephant with us called poverty, lack of recognition of indigenous rights, lack of adequate and sometimes no water completely. So we're here, it's what we're doing on a daily basis. These are things we do, and I thank you so much to allow us to speak all of this in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. Clamian, can you talk a little bit about the relationship between some of these issues, the role women are playing, the water, the issue related particularly to the drought, and how all that connects with poverty and education? And after you've had a chance to speak, Namayani, please jump in at any point.
Yeah, as Namayani actually pointed out the first time, that one of the big challenges which is facing our community is lack of education. And the Maasai tribe is that, as one of the indigenous communities in the world, they actually have, we share almost many struggles. One of that, because of their culture, the community is still very traditional. So that culture is also hindering them from realizing that education is the only weapon we have in this planet Earth to change our lives. So because, Namayani was saying that the community is not a little bit for sure, it's really still behind, still lacking behind in many ways as far as education is concerned. So that is actually still pushing us to live in very dry areas, because we only depend on livestock for our livelihood. And that's actually still hindering so many of us in getting common services in different areas, being able to access clean water and access health centers. And even if we try, but it's so hard because the livestock always, if you are a livestock keeper, you need more land. So we found ourselves always moving and to drier and drier areas. And now we go to the point where we can't even move because our land is being grabbed behind as we move. Every time we move, the land is taken over by other different communities and the government for the name of wildlife protection. And that is totally leaving us with no enough land room around. for the cattle, but also leaving us totally marginalized because the community are totally not aware of all what the changes that are happening in the world, not aware of how to fight poverty after losing your cattle. And as we always now where we live, people live below the Maasai poverty line because we also have our own poverty line, which is 9 goats, 5 cows per family. So when the family reaches to that point, then you are regarded as you are going to throw out your stick. There's no point of having a stick or holding a stick anymore because you have no cattle to look after. So usually when you reach to that point, you don't sell and you don't even slaughter a cow. Even if your family is hungry, you can't because you feel like, what do you do after even slaughtering that? What about the other day? So we totally find ourselves that most of the job we're doing, Namayani and PwC and all of us, the main job we're doing now is to try to open our friends' eyes, for those that we think, and we find us moving from one village to another and one district to another, trying to educate the community to really encourage about taking children to school and encourage them to do that because originally, school was regarded as a way to make children to disappear from the land because when they get education and then they will want to work probably and then they will go far because there's it's not easy to get a job near the Maasai land. So you have to go somewhere. You go to Nairobi, you go to Dar es Salaam, to Morogoro and anywhere. So then you find like somebody will disappear, of course, out of the land. So the community was resisting education because of that fact that somebody is going to be disappearing. Now we need, and we're working to change those norms. We have been holding so many different meetings in different areas in Maasai land to try to change the perception, the community perception in that way. So I want to just say that we are so appreciative that this year, for the very first time in my history, my eyes to see something like that, first time 22 girls from our community have been able to excel to go to colleges and high school for the very first time. Ever since we started for the last 11 years, now we are realizing our effort, the effort that we have been putting that now is bearing fruits. Thank you.
Exciting news, Clamian, really exciting news. So Namayani, I know that you too, from the frame of reference you bring to your work with focusing on climate change, see the interconnection of all these issues, and it would be great to get your insight in terms of how climate change is connecting with the role women are playing and is relating to education and the lack of water. If you would care to jump into the conversation, that would be great.
Yes, Colleen, thank you for that. I'll just want to add up to what Clamian has just said. Within our community, women have the great role to fetch water in the community. That is their greatest role, apart from others. And in this community in the Northern Tanzania, women have to travel, to walk a very long distance for water. And especially in these days where there is a very long drought, no rains, they have to move to go to very far places, almost walking to 10 kilometers to try to find water. And that is their role as the Maasai community. But I can just say that the relationship of that role to these women and the issues of climate change, it is becoming more intensive. That even if they are walking maybe 10 kilometers to find water in the previous years, where there was a little bit enough rainfall, this time it's becoming more intensive because the rains are no longer raining on time. They take too long to rain. So it is becoming more intensive. But I want just to extend my gratitude to the government of the United Republic of Tanzania They've been trying to put some efforts in trying to support the issues of water by drilling or taking water to the rural areas. They have been trying to make some effort on that part. But also as PwC, and as long as we are working with women, and we want these women to participate in other activities that will help their families in terms of economic issues. We are trying to see the possibility and come up with the innovations, or to try to see how we can get water for these women so that they can have time, a little time at least, to participate in other activities, not only household activities, but also development activities. For instance, with PwC this year, 2022, we've tried to drill some boreholes in some villages. It's not enough. We drill like 9 boreholes just to try to reduce the intensity of the challenge of water within the Maasai women. And doing that, our intention with that, we allow these women to at least have water around them so that they can get water in a near place and largely be able to participate in other activities, including the development activities that are going on in their villages. And as you told me that their role, as I said, their role is fetching water for the Maasai women. But if they get water from very far places, that means they will not participate in other economic activities or even developmental activities. So climate change, it is obvious. It is obvious that it will affect them, and it will continue affecting them because it is still going on, and we cannot anticipate when it will end. No one knows that it will end or it will continue. Assumption is climate change impact will continue, and the drought or unpredicted rainfall will continue to be there. So what we do is try to come up with initiatives that will support these women, will help these women to get at least water around them, even if it is not that much near, because as an organization, we cannot afford to drill boreholes everywhere, but at least we can work to reduce the harm so that these women will at least get an option to do some other activities regarding to their home or livelihood. So for this, Clamian has been talking a lot, and I thank him because he has been complimenting of what I've been saying. So it's a good thing that we are working together. And as long as we are pastoralists as ourselves, for me, for instance, I can say I come from a district. Clamian just mentioned 5 districts of the Maasai or indigenous people in Tanzania. And for me, I come from one of them, that is Kitesho. But now I'm working in Arusha, implementing my activities in Monduli and Ngorongoro and Loliondo. And those are still the pastoralists that I had the passion to work with. That was my passion. Since I got the chance to get educated, then I felt that it is my duty to go back and support my community. So in terms of climate change, as an expert to some extent, I have the capacity, and I'm eager to continue trying to educate my community, make them understand the real situation, and adapt or find the measures to mitigate these climate change impacts that are affecting them. So it's our gratitude as PwC continue coming up with other initiatives in collaboration with other partners. Our government is trying, and we are working close with our government and other partners like the Clamian has just said. We are working together in different initiatives, and that is our plan. We cannot do it on our own. We have to work with partners, we have to work with friends, so that together we can come up with something that will help this community in terms of the challenges they are facing, being it education, being it climate change, being issues of health. We come together in collaboration so that we can rise up and join our efforts together so that this community at least will move from where they are to another point of development. I think, Colleen, I have my colleagues who have just joined us, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to give them the chance, but you will tell me. I have two of them as participants. I have Grace Corey and Timothy Yaile. So in case they have anything they want to share, they want to add up to what I've just said, then it is you to give them the floor to contribute to anything that you feel is right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Namayani. Just to jump in here, would you like to give Grace Scory? Is that the person that's joining?
Yeah, Grace Corey works on issues of education for girls. And as I just said, in terms of education, we have girls in primary school, in secondary school, in college, in the university. And she's the one handling all these issues. I can talk of them, but she can better talk of them more than me. So if it's okay with you, then Grace Corey can take all of that. Thank you so much.
Oops. Great.
While Brianna is getting Grace organized to join us, one of the things that I think I would like to learn more of, and I'm suspecting that people around the table would like to learn more of, is how does PwC and NMI, how are you working together? You both of you have made comments about working together. What does that look like?
Yeah, let me start, then Clamian will come after. PwC, we are working on issues of education, as I said earlier. And Clamian is working with a school down there in a village. That means we have girls who are in that school that are sponsored by PwC. And this is what I'm saying, that maybe Grace will talk more about this. She's the one that is working very closely on the issues of education with Clamian. So I think she's the best to talk about this if we just give her the chance.
For Grace, you can unmute yourself, and if you care to, we'd love to also get to see you if you're open to opening your camera as well. And if that's an issue, just feel free to jump in and tell us a little bit about how PwC and NMI are working together on education.
Did you give me to talk? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Clamian, and once Grace is feeling like she's organized, she can let us know, and we'll bring her into the conversation.
NMI works with many other, we have few actually now. We are so appreciative that we now have few civils organizations that are run by the Maasai themselves. So we have been joining hands together because we are building the same house. And none of us feels that is doing more, better or more than the other one. We appreciate so much, as I said earlier, the work that PwC is doing, in supporting women's, Maasai women's and indigenous women in different levels. But we have been actually working together in the area of education. We have been discussing about how we can improve lives through education. We have been having tons of meetings in different times. Grace and Yaile, I'm so appreciative that you are able to join. And we have had several meetings with them. We're discussing about the matters that are pertaining our community and that has been rising in different times because they change from one time to another. So we have discussed many issues, including food security, which I actually pioneered, a work they do at a school which is run by PwC in Longido, called Emanyata Secondary School, which we are so happy and proud of PwC for doing that. They run a very good school in there, and I've been able to participate in, starting and establish permaculture designs in that school. It's really quite a distance. It's about a whole day drive from where we are to where the school is. So usually when I go there, I will need maybe 3 days, one full day to go, and probably a couple of days to stay with them and one full day to come back. So we have been actually sharing so many about how the school can be sustainable, how we can better save the community together, who can work on in where, and eventually recently we decided that NMI, because we run a primary school and they run a secondary school. So now we have an agreement that when they have children, like young kids from 4 to 13, they would bring to Nashipay school, the school which is under NMI. And when they graduate from here, they join college or join the secondary school, we will for sure and happy, and we have already talking to parents, encouraging them to take to kids to Emanyata Secondary School. So this way, children are able to get education in their own land, so that they continue to appreciate and learn, when they're still in the area they call home, and within their culture area and stuff like that. So yeah, we have been so much coming together and see where each partner is better or could hold whatever. So in many times we have been sitting together to discuss how we can work together. Thank you.
One of the things oh, Grace, excellent. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I would love for you to elaborate. Tell us a little bit about where you are in Maasai land and about your work at PwC, and then maybe tell us a little bit about how that connects with the work that you and Clamian are doing together, and maybe even links back into the work that Namayani is doing.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm very happy to be here. And my name's Grace Sikure. I'm a project coordinator from Pastoral Main Council. And I'm so honored to get the chance of sharing our experiences the other way. So I'm very happy to be here. And I'm also from the same community with Namayani and Clamian. So we are very proud of sharing our good stories from our own people whom we belong to. And maybe I'll just share on our relationship or how are we related with the work of Clamian, that we are all aiming at helping our own people, our own pastoral communities. Maasais or people from Northern Tanzania have been left out a long time with no education, with high literacy level among our communities. So with the passion we have for us who have been succeed to get education, it's our passion to come back to the community and help our own people. So from trying to be a champion, and I'm really a champion, an education champion among the pastoral community, whereby I speak with the girls, counseling them, motivating them on how they could do well in their academics, but also sharing their issues through right clubs, or whenever I have chance, I can visit them and speak with them on the challenges they are facing. But to PwC, we have a lot of programs. Like we have just seen, like there is a big gap between the parents and teachers. And for a child to be succeed, those two people should be in collaboration. So with last year, we were able to have one of the programs whereby we thought, like, for a child from the Maasai community to be succeed, the parents should be engaged a lot on her child or his child academics at schools. So we are able to start some of the parents and teachers association in Longido, Ngorongoro, and we are still working on starting in Munduli, whereby this parent and teacher association will help Maasai people, Maasai parents, following up on their children performance at school. For the time being now, when a parent is being called maybe at school, the parent might feel, wow, what did my child do? But maybe it's just because there is no that close relationship between a teacher and a parent at school. A parent is just being needed when there is fundraising or a child did something which is not good at school. So we are still doing a lot to bring a collaboration among teachers and parents, but for parents to have that passion, because we are very happy. We know that, like maybe I could just share one of the success stories from this Parent and Teachers Association. In one of the schools which Namayani mentioned, or Clamian, that we are managing, called the Manyata, one parent was able, when the parents, the PTA were able to organize for a school meeting, and the results were being on the notice board. So some of our staff, some of the teachers were helping the parents translate the results in a very simple language on the notice boards. So one of the parents, who is the man, was very happy that the child got the very good marks and she was the best student in class. The parent was so happy that she was able to call the child and give her like 10,000 in Tanzania and motivate his own child to do well. So for me, from the Maasai community, having a father, having a man, following up on his child or on his child performance at school is something that we really need a lot to encourage moments in our program activities, because we really can't negligent who women or girls are aligning with. But we're also doing a lot in speaking with boys, how they can protect their sisters at home, but how they can foster also girls to do well in the academics. That is what we are doing a lot now. And for one of the success stories also from the collaboration is that we have one school whereby there were never water school. Girls used to walk more than 7 kilometers searching for water, whereby a lot of girls escaped from schools through searching for water. But the PTA was able to bring water to school. So now girls are just fetching water from just the nearby tap at school. So we have a lot of good stories from PWC, but Namayani also mentioned that we are doing a lot to build boreholes and dams to our communities. And I think more parents now are following up on their children performance and academics at school. That is what we are doing also to Clamian, having parents who will have one day to follow up on their children and visit Nashipay schools, asking for their children results, because it's also helped, since we have also some of the program like teaching at the right level programs, whereby we help students who are slow learners. So we provide training to teachers on how they can help the slow learner students. And our education system are also a barrier, since like the child starts primary schools with Kiswahili full language, but when the child starts secondary school, like Form 1, the child moves totally to English. So like for 3 months, children are still coping whether to know English or whether they can focus well on their studies. So we have programs to help slow learners at school. And I think that is what PWC we are doing a lot. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Clamian, did you want to elaborate on what Grace was saying?
Say that again.
Did you want to elaborate a little bit on the connection, the educational connection, or with the children? Or I have a question I wanted to ask all of you about education that you're providing for women as well. But I don't.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
I'm aware that there is also a working relationship between PWC and NMI around the FICOBAs, the village community banks, and the training of women so that they can set up and operate their own banks. Will you share a little bit with us about what's happening there and how that's working and how that is connecting with issues around education and climate change?
It's totally a part of education. We have been approaching education, community education in different angles ever since. So we started by understanding that we need to rescue younger generations so that they become the agent of our change, not the victims of our change.
Mhm.
So we have been working in different areas by establishing schools, as we have just talked, but also then we realized that there's, because of the high level of poverty, women in the community are suffering in particular, which I appreciate PwC role in that area, because a lot of our young men are now fleeing from the village to town and cities to look for cheap labor jobs, which they can only work as watchmen because they have no education, and the only job they can do is just to stand with a spear. And we started to get even a lot of widows in the community. You know, in the village where I live, we have over 45 women who are widows now because the husbands have been killed in different towns and cities, you know, around Tanzania and even Nairobi. So we find ourselves, you know, you can't move without addressing the issue of, you know, the issue of women empowerment. So when we talk about that, then for sure we have sought some support from PwC, because PwC is a friend organization, and they have been existing for a very long time. So the area where we're operating different women's projects for empowerment, women empowerment, we have always asked and partnered with PwC to bring experts, TOTs, to support the work we do. So last year, we got 2 interns from PwC who have been supporting the groups that are supported by NMI by teaching them on Vaikoba, which is a village bank, how to operate them. And so they did a wonderful job, not only by just supporting or bringing the experts, but also to be able to support them to ensure that they're able to stay in our village to support the mamas.
Namayani, do you want to elaborate on that, or are you in a position to tell us a little bit more about the Vaikoba work at PwC? Just you're muted. Namayani, you're muted. Thank you.
I've just said that PwC, we've been working with women, as I said earlier, economically to empower them. And this is through groups of women, that is through a village bank, community village bank. We call it Vikoba. And in just relating it to the work of NMI, PwC, we work to try to build capacity and understanding of women within the community. The literacy level that is being observed within the community, we are trying to have classes for the women who are in groups, that is a village bank. We organize the women in groups of 20 to 30 people in a group. And with that, we just have to educate them. We call it adult education. We put them in classes, they have to learn the adult education so that they can know how to write and read at least their names and do some kind of counting, because that is a saving banks. They are saving their credits there, so they have to understand how to count their money and things like that. So with PwC having that groups, currently we are having almost 500 groups of women that are working in terms of village bank in the 3 village districts we are working with. And through that adult education, that is where these women come to understand the importance of education. Once they get to understand that it is important to get educated, then it is easier for them to take their children to school. It is easier for them to enroll their children to school. That is when NMI and PWC work together to make sure that the community down there, apart from just enrolling children in school, but the parents have the knowledge to understand the importance of education. And once they get to understand, it's easier for them to take their children to school. That is when we take them to primary school. For those who are very, we look at families that are very poor, in a very poor condition, that they will not support their children. Because we know the government of Tanzania is really encouraging enrollment of children in school, really encouraging. But sometimes some parents do not afford, even if it is a little bit contribution, but they will not afford to enroll their children in those government schools. So PWC and NMI work together to see that those children that their parents are willing to take them to school and they really have nothing to contribute for those children, PWC and our small funding scholarship, we take those children and join them to primary school. And later on, as he said, we have the Manyata secondary school. Whereas we look at those children that have been starting primary school from those schools, NMI school, we finally join them to Manyata secondary school where they can get to continue to their O-level education. So we are trying to link the parents' education and the children education, especially towards PWC women. We believe that when a woman has an understanding of education, then it is very easy for the family members to be educated. That is where we put our effort more to educate the women, even if they are at a very old stage, that we make sure that they understand that having education is important. When they understand, they take their children to school, and they are really committed to do that. They have come to understand that without education, then life is becoming so challenging for them. So they have come to see that it is important they take their children to school, especially the girl child. For the previous years, the Maasai will not take a girl to school. That was cultural. They believe that educating a girl is just educating another family. You will get married and go to the other family, then you will not bring any benefit back home. So they will not take a girl child to school. But finally, at this current years, we have educated them that once you educate your child, a girl child, then you will get a benefit. And they have seen from others, a few of us who have at least gotten education. They are older than us, but we are some of us who are at this age, like mine, they have seen and we have shared with them the experience that educating us doesn't mean that we'll get married somewhere else and we will not come back to our community. We will get education and still we will come back to help our community. So that with that experience, with that learning, that they are seeing their girls from the Maasai community going to school, getting educated, and finally coming back to their community, trying to help their community, then they are getting a little hope that it is important for them to take their children to school. Girl child and their boy child are all the same, so they should all attend to school. That is what we are trying to do with NMI, and we are trying to educate this community to understand more the importance of taking their children to school, enrolling them, but not just enough to enroll these girls or these boys to school, making sure that you make a follow-up on your child academic performance. As just Grace has said, it is important for a parent to participate in making sure that the academic performance of your child is good. And when there is a challenge, you as their parents, you are responsible to listen to your child and make sure you solve the problem or challenge she or he is facing. So we are working together to make sure that this community, in terms of education, they come to understand that it is important for their development. Without education, it will be difficult for them to move from where they are to another level. So that is what we're doing so far. And I believe that Clamian will also have something to add on it. And with these issues of village community banks, I think if I give Timothy Yaile, he's the person who is much responsible in that with us, PwC. And if we get a chance to give him to talk, then he will talk more about the village community bank. Thank you so much.
Grace, I caught your hand up. Did you want to jump in? You're go ahead.
Yeah, probably. I just want to say one thing that we have recently experienced. After a few years that these Maasai civil organizations have worked in Maasai land, particularly in the education area, to really support by, trying to make awareness in the community so that the community is absolutely aware of these oppressive, harmful practices, that and changing their attitude. We also realized that after, people realizing, as far as Grace just said, and Namayani, that now there's that awakening kind of attitude towards taking children to school and stuff like that. But we're also realizing that we're also losing a lot of girls because a big number now of girls may be going to school or being able to reach to higher education, also disappearing because, higher education from universities and colleges are never in the Maasai land. They're always away from the community. And the problem now is that when these youth are away and they start to learn the life, they adapt the life in town and cities, and they start to find that it's a better life. It's a good life, probably than the life they left in the village. And you know that to finish university, you need 3 to 5 years. By the time they finish, they start to have partners and get stuck in towns and stuff like that. That's another challenge facing us now. We have been talking with friends, PwC several times. How will this happen that we start to talk, even if we are unable to do right now, but we think of having a Maasai land university, a university in Maasai land, which will absolutely be able to address also this part of our fear now, we have in our hands. So we're trying now to, even children that are going through the school that we are operating as NMI and the school that PwC runs in Loliondo. Then after that, we're like, we feel like our hands are clean, but absolutely we have now another worry that, we've been able to do a great job, but children are not going to be coming back to the community. And now, when the schools are closed, we now, as a community and a council of elders in our land, we will sit to talk to them and talk to them about our priorities and what we're expecting from them. And so we tell them that they have to be role models in our community, that they have to come back. They have to show the community that they're not going to be disappearing. And they have to show that they still embrace their culture, so that when we encourage parents to take the children to school, then we have some life examples of, those who have gone to school, have come back to the land, are now investing or even are working, are teachers, are doctors, So this is another another area again, another page is opening again, even if we tried all what Grace is telling us is a good job. They really did a good job, which we totally appreciate. But then again, this is another direction that we think, we don't know if we are right or not. And there's a need to start to discuss that in the community level and as a community and as civil organizations to see how do you go about that. And we're so appreciative to the government also that there are few vocational schools and colleges that are being built near us. I appreciate this one near where I live. I don't know exactly what kind of skills they're going to be teaching, but it's still good no matter what. So that even those who could not excel to university and other higher institutions, but they are able to at least join the vocational training around us. So we are so happy that we have been able to do well now a little bit in primary education and secondary education. But what about the direction? And that's another fear, which is getting into our land now.
I hear you, and what I'm hearing is the connection between so many different pieces of the puzzle, and helping, as both you, Clamian and Namayani, had talked about the community needing to catch up, and post-secondary education is one of those pieces of catch up, and having a rich community for people to come back to, for those teenagers and young adults to come back to, is also a piece of the puzzle. So I'm just going to make use that as a little bit of a bridge to a question about the relationship between education and food security, and what's happening with how children, how families are learning to adapt to the drought realities and the primarily pastoral lifestyle they have lived, that needs some shifts to be able to move forward.
I think now we are in a position as a community where we know for sure that we are in a big mud and a kind of getting stuck in the middle. And we absolutely, we will get stuck, but it will take a little while, but we're going to get out for sure. The issue now is that the only way we can absolutely address everything is by addressing the issue of education. Once the community is educated, we will improve in many ways. We will improve in health-wise. We will improve in food security. So almost all of this will be answered by only addressing, or educating the community. So we know for sure now in where I live, where climate change is so vivid along the Rift Valley area, and but also so the poverty is also so vivid. You will not believe that just next to our office here, we have families that have children that have malnutrition. And we have been trying to address by telling them to eat vegetables, which is not a Maasai culture for them to eat vegetables. They started to come slowly, but they feel like if you eat one time, it's enough that year, like that. So there's so much still going on and so much to be addressed, but all of this will be answered only if the community is educated.
So my understanding is that both at Emanyata and at Nashipay, there's permaculture gardens. How is that playing into what you're teaching the children, and also how is that filtering back into the family? So is it shifting the diet of what's happening in the home?
It does. It totally does. But again, you understand that water issue is a big problem. So we have tried to prepare a really beautiful area, and we have been trying to come up with different crops that are drought resilience. And this is what we are now teaching the community. We have every 2 months, we'll have a group of community members who will come to our practical permaculture farm to learn. But again, then you have issue with water. We have long droughts. I know that Emanyata may be a bit better off a little bit because they have water, but I know also may not be enough again because drought is so hard to the extent that no matter how much water you have, but you still find yourself better to share with the wildlife and community and and everyone. So for sure, to continue to teach permaculture, which we are actually teaching now as an extra curriculum at our school. So permaculture is taught inside the class. It's also taught outside the class, practically, but we would also go out to teach the community. So, and we still believe completely that permaculture is really an answer to issues of malnutrition and food security. But we may have, because the population is also so big, so you really may need to be doing in a bigger scale than what we are doing.
Namayani, I see you turn your mic on. Did you want to add to this conversation before we jump to another question?
Yes, I just wanted to talk about the issue of food security in relation to education and climate change. A little bit, if you talk about food security, that means you are talking about food access, food availability, and also we can talk about food affordability. With our community, the pastoralists in the Northern Tanzania, these people are much dependent only on cattle products, that is milk and meat. When it comes to the issues of prolonged drought that are caused by climate change, hence they are losing their cattle. They don't get enough hay or pasture for their livestock, but also there is not enough water for their livestock. That means they will lack enough milk, that is their staple food. They also will not have meat, that is another staple food for their survival. That means totally these people are food insecure. When you talk about education, you might educate the community. Yes, they get educated, but is that enough to make them food secure? These people have to adapt to other life options. That is when you come to the situation where now you see the Maasai community or the pastoralist community from the northern part of Tanzania are changing to other life options. They are now becoming agro-pastoralists. Some of them are not pure pastoralists now. They are shifting from issues of just livestock keeping to some other issues of cultivation, trying to farm, trying to grow other crops so that they can at least get food as another option to replace the milk and the meat that they no longer get as it was before. So I can just say that food security to this community and PwC, what you're trying to see is that to educate them and give them understanding that they have to change to other life options. They will not only have to depend on livestock keeping, they will not only have to depend on milk and meat, they have to change to other life options. That is the way for them to be sustainable and live. Because if you depend only on that, the drought will come, all the livestock will die, and you will remain with nothing. Do you wait to die? No, you have to find for another option. That is trying to interact with others, understand what other communities are doing for their survival. If they are eating another food, maybe they are using vegetables, as just Clamian has said. Our work as PwC is to make sure these people understand how to use those other foods. If it is vegetables, if it is beans, if it is maize flour and so forth, they get to use, understand that, and understand that they are the means of their survival in other terms. They have to adapt to other life options so that life can go on. So we are trying to make this community understand other options of life instead of just depending on the livestock products which are no longer available for their survival. And with that, I can just connect it that, yes, if you educate them, sometimes if they get to understand that I can do some other option instead of just depending on that, on this. This is our intention, this is our aim. And that will make us happy that they are educated and they will be able to be food insecure just by understanding that we can, instead of depending only on meat, I can go to the market and buy something else. But now the challenge comes, we have the challenge of issues of income. And that is where PWC comes, trying to join groups, trying to make them come together and collect the small income they have, put in their community banks, run their small income generating activities business so that they can at least get some amount of money to buy something else as an option to run their livelihood. When there is no milk, they can go to the market to do small businesses, get a little amount of money, and by the end of the day, her mother will go back home with something for children to eat. There is no milk, there is no meat, but that does not mean that they will stay without eating anything. They have to adapt to other life options. So we are trying to build their capacity to understand, to be diversified, to diversify to other life options. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Clamian, go ahead.
So I'm sorry. You know, these are hot discussions, which you always have something to say. And if you think like we're taking much time, just let us know. What I'm just trying to hear from Namayani and understand that Namayani is trying to say that we need to adapt with we need to adapt with a changing life and a changing world, which is, I totally understand that when you are marginalized, then you actually may have to follow the migration, follow the whatever the move that comes, anything, whatever moving object, then you may be subjected to follow. And as a Maasai culture, once we have no cows and we have no land to graze them, then our culture also will disappear. So our culture continues to depend on two main important aspects, namely land and the cattle. So we totally agree that when you have, in my language, they have a saying which says a lion can eat grass when there's totally no meat to eat. So now we Namayani, we have to go eat grass when there's no meat, because because exactly that since the Maasai culture is a very important and a very rich culture that we need to it needs to be protected for maybe another 1 century if possible. But it can only exist for long if stakeholders, which includes the government, our friends all over the world, us as a community, will continue to see importance of embracing the culture. Now, Tanzania government, I also appreciate so much that they do see and appreciate the princess and the tradition of Maasai traditions, but I feel like they are doing very, very little to support us, to encourage us, in order for us to keep moving, to keep our culture. They know all over the world that the culture, and we know also that the Maasai culture will also disappear like any other culture. But it might, the existence of a Maasai culture will for sure depend on 3 partners. The first is our government need to understand and protect the way they're protecting wildlife, and continue to give a room for wildlife, and continue to see the existence of wildlife depends and call upon many partners all over the world. And I even call by using this webinar today, which is connected to the government of Canada, that we need their support to support the existence of the Maasai culture. Very important. I'll be so ashamed if I don't say this before I finish my talk. Because for sure, exactly the way we are supporting now, and everybody is after the protection of wildlife in Tanzania. Tanzania is only a country in Africa that has been able to set aside over 30% of the land for wildlife. It's an enormous amount of land. We use probably maybe almost 20 point something percent of our GDP goes to the protection of wildlife. But I am not sure if there's a single coin that goes to protection of a Maasai culture, which is actually ultimately an important aspect of protection of wildlife. Now, 90% of wildlife protected areas in Tanzania have been Maasai land. We protected wildlife because of our culture, that which is a very protective culture. It's only today in Maasai land you could drive around and find wildlife, the zebras, the wildebeest, elephants feeding with the Maasai cattle together in harmony. There's no one any other place. Where do these stakeholders fail to understand that? The moment the Maasai start to adapt, they start to try to adapt, is absolutely the moment that the wildlife also will disappear, because they change to eat grass also, and they change to also eat and hunt wildlife like the other communities. So thank you.
Clamian, I appreciate you building the summary for us, because that was indeed the last question, is ask how we as Canadians can stand with the Maasai. And I appreciate your thoughts on that. And Kat, I know our time is tight, but I just want to give Namayani a chance to answer that question as well before, and it drives me crazy, because I know if we were sitting around the fire in Mekuni, this conversation would go on for hours. And so it's very frustrating that it's an hour and a half on a clock. So thank you for that. Namayani, how would you address that last question of how can Canadians stand with the Maasai people?
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. I will just have a last comment to say that, as Clamian has just said, protection of Maasai culture starts with us as Maasai community. We have to stand and protect our culture and stand by our culture, but we cannot do it alone. We need the support of people like you from Canada, partners from worldwide, our own government of Tanzania, to support us. As he has said, the Maasai are very good in issues of conservation. We really protect the land, and we live with this livestock without any harm. We are not hunters. We live together in harmony without harming each other. So they have to understand the value of the pastoralists and how they survive with the livestock and the wildlife. And I can just call upon that we still need to maintain our culture as it is. With all the challenges that we are facing, with all the climate change impacts that are affecting us, with all the diversity that we need to do for the survival, but we still need to maintain our culture. And with that, we cannot do it alone. We need a support from different stakeholders, different partners, our government, so that we can survive on this, and our community will still maintain the culture that we had several years ago. We still needed to maintain it. So I just have that to say as a final say, that please, anybody who is involved, the government, partners, and us, the community, as Maasai, we need to come together to protect and make sure that this culture of the pastoralists or indigenous people from the Northern Tanzania is really protected, and these people survive and live accordingly, just like other community. Live a free life, but also trying to understand how the world is moving. In fact, we cannot set aside ourselves and say that we are not seeing what is going on in the world. We have to see, and we have to see how we can change, or we can go with the situation. But a caution, without getting out of our culture. We have to maintain our culture as Maasai, and I said, we need a support of each and every person, each and every individual, each and every partner that is working with us. Yeah, that's it.
Ashina Lang, to both of you, it's been an incredible conversation, and as much as I hear so much on my weekly calls with Clamian and Makiuni, I have learned more, and my understanding is deeper. And so Ashina Lang, to both of you for your time, and Grace, thank you so much for jumping in and joining us as well. From all of us in Canada, we thank you for sharing who you are and your struggles and your successes with us. Thank you. Uncut.
Yeah, asante everyone. This is it's really sad to have to close. I really don't want us to close because we have more to learn from this. And I'm not saying it in an academic way. One thing is to support and be solidary and in cooperation with the Maasai in Tanzania. But another is to learn from what you've been saying, the relationship with culture, food security, women, education, everything so interconnected. We tend to sometimes talk about it as something like, you know, big words that we discuss easily, like we discuss decolonization. Well, decolonization is one way where we can support the Tanzanian Maasai and the Ugandan and the Kenyan Maasai, because we actually have cultures that overpower other cultures. We impose our way of cooperation. So at the very least, if we're not going to work specifically with the Maasai of your region, it should be about us in Canada, and I'm addressing our public here, really, really reflecting on the abuse that we have been perpetrating and continue to perpetrate with our own culture, that is a culture of grabbing more than what is actually available. So great to hear that 90% of the wildlife, I wasn't sure of the numbers, but what you were saying, Clamian, about the way the Maasai have been protecting and preserving wildlife and their land, that's an inspiration for us to also think about, what are we doing? Are we letting others protect pieces of land in BC, in Canada, in Tanzania? But we continue to consume the way we've always consumed. We continue to exploit resources wherever we exploit them. So we might not be immediately together with you in Tanzania, but definitely I think your public here is a public that is wanting ourselves to change some of our culture, because the part of our culture that doesn't allow other cultures to survive is the one that we need to change. And it is now 1 minute over time. I want to thank each of you. Colleen, fantastic work with us. We love you. Namayani, Clamian, Grace, it was great to hear you and to meet you. And then of course, all the participants. I've seen that there's participants also from Kenya, Vancouver Island, Interior BC, Alberta, Burnaby, Vancouver, for many places in Canada and perhaps Uganda, but I didn't check. Thank you so very much, as well as Brianne for organizing all of this and our team behind that. The goal of our members, and I know some of our members are also here, is to share, learn, and disseminate information. Thank you so very much. And goodbye.
Thank you so much for having us.
Asante.
Ashina Lang.
Ashe.